Hey everyone, Matt here from Docs Running, and today we're going to do a comparison review of the ASICS Metaspeed Edge Plus and the ASICS Metaspeed Edge Paris. Now, the reason we're doing this review is the Edge Plus was a major improvement from the prior version, which the original Edge Tokyo was not really even worth considering in this realm, especially the price point was so disappointing. The Edge Plus was a huge step up, although to be honest with you, it still felt like something was missing. It wasn't the top super shoe in our 2022 range, but it was much better and actually something I preferred a lot more than the Sky Plus. The Edge Paris is a huge update in so many ways, and it's different enough that I figured I'd do this review to help you figure out, hey, if you're interested in one of these shoes, which one might work better for you and which one might not. So let's start out with specs first to help you make that decision. So the Edge Plus is coming in at 7.4 ounces for men's size 9, women's size 10.5 because it comes in at unisex sizing, or 210 grams. The Edge Paris comes in at 6.5 ounces for men's size 9, women's size 10.5, or 185 grams. So almost an ounce difference. My size 10 in each. My size 10 is 7.6 ounces in the Edge Plus. My size 10 in the Edge Paris is 6.8 ounces for a similar almost ounce difference between the two. Despite that, there's actually a higher stack height over in the Edge Paris. So the Edge Plus comes in at 39 millimeters in the heel, 31 in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter drop. The Edge Paris comes in at 39.5 in the heel, 34.5 in the forefoot for a 5 millimeter drop. Now, if you told me that, and I mentioned this in my original view, if you told me this was a 5 millimeter drop, I would have been a little bit of surprise until I started running in it. It does feel like that kind of middle drop range, whereas to be honest with you, the Edge actually feels like a little lower drop version of this. So despite the measurements, this one actually feels a little bit lower drop, and that actually is kind of similar to the Ride. So the Ride is much more of a rolling ride, in my opinion, in the Edge Plus, and that's because the Flight Foam Turbo Foam, yes, supposedly it's PIBA, but it just didn't have the same bounciness and snappiness. It's got a little more of that roll. When you went to the Edge Paris, this shoe has a lot of bounce. The Flight Foam Turbo Plus is very clearly a very clearly a PIBA foam. Yes, there is a nice rolling transition to it, but it's just got so much bounce. It's like this is clearly a super foam, clearly a super shoe. This is like a almost there, but just needs that little extra boost, which the Paris has. Now, if you don't like that super bouncy feeling, the Edge Plus might be a better option for you, but I personally prefer the Edge Paris because for the money, because these cost exactly the same amount, and ASICS doesn't typically discount their old racing models. These cost the same amount. This one to me is going to give you far more performance if you like that bounciness and definitely give you that super shoe feeling. This one's going to give you a little more of that, like, yes, it's a great racing shoe. It doesn't have that super bounce to it. It's a little more rolling ride. It's light, but not nearly as light as this. So for the money, from a ride perspective, this one is doing a lot better, the Edge Paris. Durability wise, they're almost exactly the same, kind of got the same outsole setup. I've got 50 miles on this one, 35 miles on the Edge Paris, and honestly, they're wearing exactly the same. The lateral rubber seems to do a great job of holding up well. And it's, again, this one I'm going to guess might be a little bit more durable, but that is a guess in the outsole just because it's a little bit firmer. But I might be wrong, and I'm going to keep testing both of them, get as many miles as I can, and give you a full updated review as soon as I possibly can. The other thing you might be asking that we talk about is how is the stability? So believe it or not, despite the more cush and the more bounce, to me, the Edge Paris is a more centered ride. It doesn't feel biased in one way. There are some mechanisms that ASICS talked to us about, like trying to get the lateral heel to collapse a little bit more. There's a lateral sidewall and now a higher medial arch/sidewall, so it just feels really centered. It doesn't feel like it's pushing in one way. It's not a stability shoe, but I've just taken out a long run. It did a lot better for me than the Edge Plus, and the reason why is the Edge Plus feels like it has a lot more of a medial bias to it, and that's because there's a lot more lateral sole flare compared to kind of much more centered over here in the Edge Paris. A lot more lateral sole flare throughout the length, so it feels like it's pushing in. Plus, the midfoot just feels like it's cut out a little bit more. I don't notice it, even though it is cut out a similar amount. I don't notice this as much, I think because of the medial sidewall. But this one, if you tend to supinate or go laterally, this actually might be a really great option for you. This one's more centered, but again, neither one of them are stability shoes. It's just going to depend on what your body needs. When it comes to the upper, heel counters are very similar, very flexible, really nice, really similar laces that lock really well and do not go anywhere. The only thing that's really different here is the forefoot and the fit there. Now the upper is much lighter in the Edge Paris, and that is noticeable. It's a little bit thicker over in the Edge Plus, this being thicker being relative given it's still super light. The volume is much lower up front in the Edge Plus compared to the Edge Paris. Edge Paris, I have plenty of wiggle room. My toes can kind of go up and down. And if you need a little bit more room, it does stretch a little bit and kind of adapts if you have a little bit more room, want a little more room, and accommodates a little bit more to swelling. The Edge Plus doesn't do that as much. It's lower volume, fits a little bit more snug, and there's not as much wiggle room for that. So if you want a little bit more room, the Edge Paris is probably going to be your best friend. If you want a little bit less room, the Edge Plus is going to be your best friend. But both of them have fairly good room for racing flats. So again, in terms of which one would I pick if they're the same cost, head over to, like every single time, I would choose the Edge Paris. It's a true super shoe. It's got a noticeable bounce, a great ride. It's fairly centered and not biased in either way, but it's not a stability shoe either. There's a little bit more room in the upper, and again, seems to be wearing the same. For my money, I'm gonna choose the Edge Paris. Those people that don't want as much bounce, those people who want a little bit more rocker ride, the Edge Plus might be your best friend, but again, how that's going to work for you is going to depend on your body. Hope this video helped you. We're always posting new stuff. I'm going to get 100 miles out of this shoe as soon as I can, so stick around for that review. But again, as I always say, hope this stuff helps you make decisions about what works best for you.